All right, let's talk about Australia. When it comes to iGaming, it's one of the most tempting markets on the planet, but also one of the most treacherous. Think of it like a gauntlet. The risks, they're huge, but the rewards, absolutely massive. So, if you've ever thought about what it really takes to make it down under, well, you're about to find out.
So, before we jump in, a quick word about us. We're the research team at Gambling Databases, and our whole deal is basically decoding the global iGaming landscape. We dig into the data to give you a super clear picture of what makes each market tick. You know, the local rules, the players, the money, all of it. So for this, think of us as your guides.
And believe me, it is quite a journey. Let's just start with a number that makes everyone's ears perk up. 24 billion Australian dollars. That's what players lose, or what the industry brings in, every single year. We're talking one of the highest per capita gambling markets on Earth. The size of the prize here is just enormous.
So the big question is, are you ready to try and claim your slice of that pie? Because I'll tell you right now, it's not as simple as just setting up shop. In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what it takes to get into one of the world's most complex markets.
All right, let's get into it. The legal labyrinth. This is your first and honestly probably your greatest challenge. The rules in Australia aren't just suggestions. They're a massive wall you have to climb.
So the whole online scene is basically controlled by one huge piece of legislation, the Interactive Gambling Act of 2001. You gotta know this name. This act is the gatekeeper. It decides everything you can do, and maybe more importantly, everything you can't. And this just lays it all out, plain and simple. The government has drawn a really clear line in the sand. Want to do online sports betting, lotteries, or race wagering? Go for it. Totally legal, as long as you've got the proper license. But online casinos, slots, poker, even in-play betting on sports? Nope. Absolutely forbidden. The takeaway is simple, really. If your whole business is built around online casino games, Australia is it's a no-go zone.
And listen, don't even think you can just set up offshore and fly under the radar. It won't work. The authorities in Australia have some serious teeth. They'll get ISPs to block your site, they'll lean on payment processors to cut you off, and yeah, they can even bring criminal charges. The message couldn't be clearer. You either play by their rules or you don't get to play at all. Okay, so let's say you figure out the legal stuff. What's next? Well, now you've got to meet the Australian punter. And understanding your future customer here is everything. These guys are a unique bunch, and if you don't get what they're about, you're not going to last long.
This chart here gives us a great look at what Aussies are actually betting on. Now, you see, lotteries are huge. Yeah, highest participation. But for an online operator, the real action, the real dedicated money is in race betting and sports betting. We're not talking about casual players here. These are passionate, super engaged fans, and they are the absolute core of the legal online market.
And here's a number that should basically dictate your entire tech strategy: 75%. Let that sink in. 3 out of every 4 online bets happen on a phone. This isn't just a mobile-friendly market. No, it's mobile first. Heck, you could almost call it mobile only. If your app isn't flawless, you're dead in the water before you even start.
So what are they betting on with those phones? This is where local knowledge is king. You can't just show up with a generic international sports book. You have to go deep on Australian rules football, the AFL, and the National Rugby League, the NRL. Cricket is huge, obviously, and then there's horse racing, which is practically a religion there. You have to speak the local language of sport, or they just won't take you seriously.
Right, so you've got the law down, you get the customer, now for the next big hurdle, paying the price. And believe me, the financial toll of entry here is steep.
Look, this is not some wide open field just waiting for someone new to come along. This market is dominated by absolute giants. You've got Sportsbet, which is owned by Flutter, controlling a massive chunk of the market, like a third of it. Then you have the old school legend, Tab, and the global heavyweight, Bet365. You're not just competing here, you are going toe-to-toe with deeply entrenched, incredibly well-funded titans.
And while you're fighting it out with them, guess who else wants a piece? The government, of course. And it's not just one simple tax, it's a whole layered system. First, there's a point of consumption tax, which hits your revenue. Then you've got the standard 30% corporate income tax on whatever profit is left. And on top of that, a goods and services tax. It's a heavy tax burden that you absolutely have to bake into your business plan from day one.
And another thing, you're not getting into this market overnight. Just look at this timeline. This is pretty typical. Between getting your company set up, going through the license application, and trust me, they do deep integrity and background checks, and then building out your platform, you're looking at a year, maybe a year and a half, just to get to launch day. So yeah, patience is not optional.
So, the million-dollar question, or in this case, the multi-million-dollar question. What does all this cost? Well, this number right here really puts that barrier to entry in perspective. Our research shows an estimated initial investment of somewhere between 3.5 and, get this, 27 times million Australian dollars. That's just the price of admission. That's what it costs to even get a seat at the table before you've taken a single bet.
Which brings us to it, the final verdict. We've walked through the legal maze, we've met the Aussie punter, and we've seen the massive price tag. So after all of that, is running the Australian iGaming gauntlet actually worth it? Well, our analysis points to a pretty clear answer. This market is for a very specific type of operator. You need to be well capitalized. We're talking deep pockets. You need a genuine, authentic understanding of the local sports culture. And you need a long-term strategy. We're talking years, not months. So, if you're chasing a quick buck or you're not ready for the insane competition and the complex rules, honestly, steer clear. This place will eat you alive.
And providing that kind of clarity, well, that's exactly what we're all about at Gambling Databases. Our goal is to give you a clear, data-driven picture of how the gambling industry really works in each market. We break down the regulations, the player experience, what it's like for operators, everything that makes a market unique.
So look, if you're serious about really understanding the global iGaming world, what we've covered here is just scratching the surface. For the full deep dive report on Australia, plus our analyses on dozens of other countries, you've got to visit our website. It's gamblingdatabases.com.